Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.
Republican Representative Samantha Kerkman of Salem is seeking re-election in the 61st Assembly District. Representative, welcome back to WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We are within a few miles from the Foxconn proposed campus. You voted for it. I've seen some of your, it's going swimmingly well one year later.
Well, I mean, gosh, 2 years ago, we didn't even know what the word Foxconn or what Foxconn was. Right. And now today, they're going to have a $10 billion investment into our area, into our state. And yes, it's going to definitely change and transform this area. But there's been so many other good things that have come before Foxconn. You know, I looked back at my interview 2 years ago for this, and the two companies I mentioned there were Amazon and Uline. Because you drive up the interstate and you look to the east.
I didn't know to ask about Foxconn 2 years ago, excuse me.
Correct, correct. But I mean, just even since, you know, that particular opportunity, I've got so many other small businesses that have come into my area or have expanded into Racine and Kenosha counties. It's really, truly an exciting time. Almost 11,000 jobs have been added in the last 5 years. So,
Kimberly Clark, though, said, hey, give us similar tax breaks, tax benefits. You were one of those on February 22nd that voted for Kimberly Clark?
I did.
But what should be the criteria going forth? When should state government help out private business?
Well, I think we have to look at it at a case-by-case because, again, I go back to Mercury Marine when I voted on that particular proposal.
The Doyle administration.
Correct. Again, that was you know, our economy was in a much dire strait at that particular time, and Mercury Marine was going through definite challenges. They made the commitment to stay here. Those jobs are stayed here. So again, I think we need to, when companies come to us and they need assistance, we have to look at it and look at where the company is and where the value is going to be added into the future.
The Foxconn campus, though, highlights the need for a long-term transportation funding plan.
Yes.
You've been a part of the caucuses, the impasse. Your caucus put forth a plan, didn't go anywhere with the Senate. Where should we go from here? Why don't you wave a wand and solve our highway funding problem?
Well, I mean, 2 years ago we had the audit that was proposed, and then it came out shortly after the election as we started the debate on the last budget. 3 of the proposals that were recommended in that audit came to fruition, became law. So now we're going to have more transparency in our transportation budget as, you know, it's proposed, making sure that projects stay online, to stay on budget. I mean, what they're doing out here on I-94 and building and rebuilding and adding 37 road miles in 2 years time period is truly amazing. And again, we are watching the budget closely, working closely with the DOT staff as legislators, because again, my constituents down here are impacted by the closures and the changes that are happening.
But are you ready to address it statewide by voting to raise the gas tax, the registration fee, and the tolling idea?
Well, and there's vehicle miles traveled as well. There's 4 proposals out there.
Yes.
And again, we do need to have a comprehensive approach to our transportation budget. We put $6.7 billion into transportation over the 2-year cycle. So again, we need to look at all the options. You know, I go back to before the audit, and before the transportation fund was actually segregated, and I can call it a lockbox, we did have indexing. But I was one of the legislators that voted to repeal the indexing because at the time we were using that fund for so many other things. Now it's protected, it's going specifically to roads. So if we have that conversation about gas tax or vehicle miles traveled tax or fee or car registration fee, that, you know, that those funds, we can feel confident, are going to be used for the infrastructure that is needed.
Should tolling be seriously considered, Representative?
You know, that is one of those things where I'm not a big fan of the tolling. My district would be heavily impacted by that.
Yes.
I've talked to several of the businesses that are in the trucking business. You go south of the border here, on average for 48 weeks out of the year, it's about $700 for just one toll, or one $3 toll twice a day, that is going to impact those particular users, versus trying to spread it out over, the gas tax or car registration that everybody pays in.
Local governments have dealt with levy limits for 13, 14, 15 years. You've probably heard some local government leaders say, hey, this is pinching our ability to provide services. Keep levy limits, loosen them, get rid of them?
I support levy limits, but giving, again, if there's a case-by-case need for a community that is struggling for some, unique reason, I am open to, opening them or giving them a little bit of a relief for a particular reason, but they have to make the case. They can go to their voters and ask for a levy increase. I know one community here in the area that's close to my district is talking about going to a referendum to ask the voters. So again, just like school districts, I had a couple of school districts that passed referendums this past year to increase their budgets. So again, school districts are living under the same things that the other local governments, municipal governments.
You voted for a budget with an increase in state aid to K-12 public schools of more than $600 million.
Correct.
When local educators and principals and superintendents say, thank you, but we still think we're underfunded, we think another significant increase is needed in the next budget. Do you agree?
Well, we have to look how they're prioritizing their budgets right now. So they've gotten this increase, and then going forward, we have to see how they're putting those dollars to use. Are they actually getting those dollars into the classroom? I have boys that are in 6th and 7th grade. They are, going to public school, the same public school that I went to. So. And I see the transformation that's happened in the school. More technology is being utilized. Kids have Chromebooks these days. So are they actually getting those dollars to the kids and then making sure the kids are getting results out of that?
You've watched Choice grow, Milwaukee, Racine, now statewide. Do you advocate, do you believe it should expand further, or are you happy where it is now?
I think parents want choices when it comes to education, not just school choice, not just open enrollment, but virtual schooling is becoming quite popular as well, giving people many different opportunities for educating their children for the next group of workers that we have. I mean, we are here at Gateway Technical College in Racine County, and walking down the halls here and seeing all the classrooms being utilized today is truly important, because again, we need these kids to get the best education, get the best training, and then get into the workforce and to stay here in Wisconsin. I want my kids to stay here. I want them to have a good job when they are ready for it.
As a veteran of the Assembly, you know how big an issue the corrections budget can be.
Huge. 2
of our prisons were built in the 1800s. Some Democratic candidates for governor said we could, over a period of years, cut our prison inmate population by half. Do we need a new prison?
We do. Well, actually, first off, we're auditing for correctional costs, so that should be available early spring, just in time for that budget discussion, to look at what are the true correctional costs. But yes, I'm open to having a new prison. Like you said, we haven't had a new facility built since Stanley, I believe. So now it's time to really look at that. And it's that and our juvenile correctional system as well. We've had that conversation, and again, going to these regional approaches right now, I think is critical to again help bring down recidivism rates, because if they're incarcerated close to their families, they're able to see their families, and then when they get out, they're able to come back in and not commit a crime again. I mean, that's truly what I'm looking forward to. If somebody commits a crime, they have to do the time. But once somebody's out, we need to get them either back into the workforce, get them worker training, so that they have the skills that they need to become productive members of the society.
UW system budget. Should we continue the freeze on resident undergrad tuition for a 7th and 8th year?
I believe we should. I believe that the money that we're spending putting into higher education, again, I'm really a big proponent of the outstate universities, the Whitewater, Parkside, Platteville, Oshkosh, because so much of our funds is always directed at UW-Madison. Sometimes our outstate colleges don't get that same type of impact. Not that they're not important, UW-Madison, but they are able to raise so much money through foundations and partnerships, whereas our smaller schools don't have those opportunities. Now they're improving, I have to say it. With Foxconn, the collaboration of our university system, our technical college system is phenomenal. Brian Albright, president of Gateway, Debbie Ford, chancellor at UW Parkside, working together. And then you throw in the private colleges here in our area. Carthage College, President Swallow as well, is really doing, that collaborative approach. They're not concerned about their turfs as much. They want to just educate the workforce for these new jobs that are going to become available. And things like engineering. We need every kid who's interested in engineering to stay here in Wisconsin.
Questions on healthcare. This is kind of an urban area. You've got kind of an urban district, but what are your thoughts on how do we protect and maybe expand healthcare in rural Wisconsin?
You're right, access to healthcare is important. And it's not just rural versus urban, it's everywhere. And I know that recently I had some conversations because I've got two larger hospital developments going on down here. They're trying to bring in doctors right now, currently. And they're having some trouble with their licensures, getting them certified here in Wisconsin. So I've been working with our departments, our agencies, to try to make sure that we can streamline the process, making sure that the paperwork isn't going in somebody's drawer, that it's actually being looked at, so we can get these doctors here in Wisconsin.
Are you hearing from hospitals and medical providers about our low Medicaid reimbursement rates? Are you concerned that we may be at a tipping point that would hurt health care provided
not on the
by our Medicaid?
Not on the Medicaid. Well, not so much on the hospital side, but more so on the dental side. I've toured a couple of our dental clinics here in Kenosha recently, and again, that's been a conversation we've had over the years. It's twofold. It's the reimbursement rate, but then it's also the no-show rate. They have such a high no-show, and I'm not a big fan of going to the dentist either, but it's important for good oral health. So again, it's communicating, working together. I know when I had my last dentist appointment, I got like 3 texts and an email. So again, to remind me that I had my appointment on Monday morning, and again, it's those types of things to make sure that people get in once they have that appointment and get the access to care that they need.
Are those dental sites that you mentioned, are they part of this experiment between state government and Delta?
They are. One of them is. So
should that remain a priority in the next MA budget?
I think so. I've heard very positive feedback from the one particular office that is utilizing it, and they could do more. So not just here in Kenosha and Racine counties and Milwaukee counties, but they could expand further. So again, it was seeing how it is started out as a pilot program, seeing how it's worked, and then go forward from here.
Are you hearing about issues raised by caregivers? The reason I ask is AARP estimates that 578,000 Wisconsin residents are caregivers for family members or neighbors. So would you support laws or rules that require hospitals to recognize and work with family caregivers when someone they love is hospitalized?
Well, we have that, through family care and through senior, we have these programs in place, but sometimes you need to look at them and make sure they're really meeting the needs of what they were intended to do. So again, going forward, especially with the family care, the self-directed side of it, again, that is critical. But again, making sure people know about it and that it's available to them as well. So a couple times recently in the last few months where I've had those questions, people didn't know what or even how to apply for it.
The bills in the Capitol to legalize recreational and medical marijuana, your positions?
Well, the first step was CBD oil. Sally Schaefer, she's a mom on a mission down here in the Racine County area, really opened up my eyes to what the benefits of that particular product were. So going forward, I'd be looking at more information. The one hard thing for me is that when the state by state do it, then you have people crossing straight lines to get things and going that way. So I would be more open to medical marijuana than recreational. I think we're not there yet. If something happened on the federal level, so you didn't have people traveling across state lines, because again, I'm down here in the border area, kind of like with the 18-year-old drinking age. I've heard those stories. Now again, I wasn't old enough to drink. I was a youngster when the drinking age changed. But when people would come up here to Wisconsin because our drinking age was 18 and Illinois was 21.
Last question, do you want to highlight differences between you and your opponent on November 6th?
My big focus these days is economic development and moving forward with that. We've got so many great things happening here in Kenosha County. You know, we've got more companies that are coming in outside of Foxconn. We have Haribo that's going to be opening up in Pleasant Prairie during the next 2-year cycle. And again, workforce and training are those things that are most important to me in moving forward in the next legislative session.
Republican Representative Samantha Kerkman of Salem is seeking re-election in the 61st Assembly District. The election is November 6th. Representative, thanks for talking to WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.